Roguelikes live and die by their gameplay. Interesting temporary progression that incentivizes creativity through experimentation, choices that impact every run, making each one feel fresh and unique, an overarching progression system that brings the player another reason to keep engaging again and again and again. Everything rides on the systems and the mechanics provided in the never-ending loop of failure and eventual success. It's one of the most addicting experiences in gaming when well done. This structure has honestly never resonated with me. I've dabbled in various roguelikes in the past. Some that have caught my attention are Enter the Gungeon, Hades, and Slay the Spire. They keep me entertained for a short while, but none have ever made me want to stick with it and be truly invested in the systems and the overall narrative. I only ended up playing Roboquest because of a friend. He kept hounding me to try it, and succumbing to the peer pressure, I eventually caved. Now, all I can say is, damn, this game is sick! The main premise of Roboquest is kinda awesome. A roguelike where you play as a robot waking up hundreds of years later, recognizing that the human world, who you were meant to protect, is struggling against the spread of corruption. Honestly, that take is pretty generic. But Roboquest stands out by taking this common idea and infusing it with fast-paced, addictive FPS gameplay. Continue to incorporate Borderlands-style looting and a class system that offers unique build potential for each run. This is how Roboquest distinguishes itself from others. The biggest and most important aspect of Roboquest is the gameplay, and it does not disappoint. The moment-to-moment gameplay is fast, and this is because the developers at Rise Up had a focus on movement and maintaining momentum. Each class has access to the same basic movement abilities like sprinting, double jumping, and sliding. Making your way through each procedurally generated level is quick and easy to learn. There is an innate sense of control over your robot, even during hectic moments. Weaving through enemy gunfire feels great and handles extremely well. Moving around the levels is a wonderful experience and accentuates the excellent combat. This is where Roboquest starts to set itself apart from other roguelikes. Before you begin each run, you are able to select one of 6 classes. Each class has a specific ability like an invulnerability shield or summon a friendly drone. Admittedly, they sound a little boring, but while they may be basic abilities or ideas at first, they grow into a flavor all your own each time you level up. As you progress your run and slay the enemies of corruption that lay in your path, you slowly gain XP, which gets you ever and ever closer to leveling up. Once you do reach a new level, you are prompted to select a perk. These perks really change up how each class plays. You can choose to have your drone start causing enemies to gain status effects, like burning or becoming marked, perks that also alter how effective you are at critical hits, and others that give you overall boosts to reload speed, movement speed, and damage as you activate your class's special ability. The perks started to get interesting, and I would have to stop and think about which would have the greatest impact on my build. It was fun to start build crafting in the middle of a run. The system gives way to a great variety and experimentation at the beginning of your playtime with Roboquest. I kept on being excited to see new perks that popped up. I would get to spend some time thinking about not only my build during this run, but also for future runs and how the perk could cause fantastic synergy. What continues to build synergy between movement, classes, and perks are the guns themselves. The game has a wonderful Borderlands take on its selection of weaponry. There are plenty of unique weapon models, from a basic starter pistol to a multi-rocket shooting elephant gun. This alone is enough, but the developers go a step further, adding in random rolls. This is where the Borderlands inspiration really shines. Guns may, or may not, have a plethora of stat modifications, traits, effects, and alternate firing options. One minute, I could have a kunai that, when thrown, turns into a kunai shotgun that has each pellet dealing the same damage of a single kunai. The next, I could have a dual-wield SMG that, whenever I deal crit damage, would ricochet from one enemy to the next in a large radius. And then I could get another kunai that both has a shotgun shot and the ricochet effect for just insane damage. And this is just the beginning of the weapon possibilities. Each weapon can potentially have an alternate firing mode. I could have a shovel that gives you a vertical rocket boost to a rocket launcher that can project a shield in front of me to negate a ton of damage. Mix in elemental effects and weapons can start to freeze, stun, ignite, or hack enemies. Plus, with the class and perk system, each element can be boosted to have even more destructive power. There are so many options and possibilities, it feels almost mind-boggling. I definitely came across some dud rolls, which I just quickly looked past, but during my playtime, I felt that I was just starting to scratch the surface of all the potential weapon wackiness that this game offers. It would have been easy for Rise Up Studios to focus on providing countless options for build possibilities. They didn't do that. They also provided a fun gameplay loop with the movement and satisfying gunplay. Every weapon is automatic, and that all that is needed is to hold down the fire button, and guns will just rattle off bullet after bullet. This allows one to have a primary focus not on clicking, but smooth aiming, which is fantastic because jumping around and being aggressive is a blast. It is fast, it is wacky, and it feels rewarding. My favorite class is the Recon. The special ability is a short-range teleport called Blink. This can happen in any direction that you are looking, whether it be horizontal or vertical. In addition to Blink, there is another passive ability called Overslash. Whenever an enemy is eliminated by Recon, 1 combo charge is gained. Once 5 combo charges are acquired, it then activates Overslash. This allows me to deal 200% damage with my next melee attack. It is so much fun to teleport to an enemy and slash them just to see them evaporate into thin air. I love blinking around and Goomba stomping on every enemy robot. There were times that I started losing control because I was teleporting in every direction, double jumping around, bouncing off enemies, and I was just having the best time. Highly recommend playing as the Recon and seeing what kind of builds you can come up with. As I mentioned before, the levels encourage you to move around. They entice you to take advantage of the various landscapes. They challenge you to find the most effective route through the dozens of enemies that lay before you. The levels are constructed like a series of funnels connected to one another, flowing seamlessly from one combat scenario to another. It's as if you were being tenderly carried to the next engagement. It is easy to engross yourself completely in the level design. And one very cool thing about the levels is that they have branching paths. I equate it to, in a very crude example, the branching paths in Slay the Spire. In Slay the Spire, I am able to choose different engagements and scenarios how I want to. While in Roboquest, I am not able to choose the exact engagements, I am able to choose which route I want to go. This adds an additional layer of choice through each run. Do I want to go through the Oasis, or do I want to go through the Quarry? Each branching path offers unique environments, tons of secrets to find, and a wide assortment of bosses to defeat. Some of these secrets lead to permanent or persistent unlocks. I was rewarded for my exploration of the levels and my engagement with the various side quests that appeared throughout my runs. I found a lot of secrets that I had to leave and then return to once I proceeded further into the game. Some of these unlocks are extremely useful, like a super jump after crouching for a period of time, which increased my ability to maneuver around the maps tenfold. These hidden secrets were an incentive to keep me coming back. As I made my choices through the branching levels in Roboquest, I would come across interesting bosses. While each encounter could be relatively short and a bit too easy depending on how I build out my character, they were all fun to fight. Each had a focus on a different mechanic. I really appreciated how the developers thought of creative encounters that felt refreshing and engaging. One of my favorite is a caterpillar robot that is sliding around on rails. The whole arena is one giant rail looping around and around between 2 rooms. Below the rails is a shallow pool of acid. If I fell in, I would take some serious damage. So I had to grind the rails all while jumping to various other parts of the track to avoid getting run over by the boss. A weak spot was on its caboose, so not only did I have to focus on avoiding the boss's relentless movement, but also track the weak spot. I enjoyed fighting each boss as they all had engaging mechanics that made me move around and use the movement tools at my disposal. It was fun to try different builds and see how the abilities and guns that I chose impacted my success or defeat against different bosses. Sometimes I absolutely slaughtered a boss in a few seconds. Other times it was a close call and I barely scrapped by. The bosses were a nice cap to each level I progressed through. After each run, I was rewarded with a currency called wrenches. This currency is used to buy permanent upgrades in the base camp. These upgrades can give you more options when opening up a loot box during a run, or having a higher chance to get better weapons that drop from slaying enemies. They aren't necessarily interesting, but they make each run more customizable, so I was able to repeat a great build more consistently than before. Also, while in the base camp, I was able to change the difficulty of my runs, toggle on or off specific mechanics, change my class, and invite a friend. Playing co-op is fantastic. It is easy to get a friend in the game and start playing with no hiccups. While playing co-op, I didn't experience any lag or connection issues. It was a clean experience. But one thing I will say is that the co-op experience is significantly easier than playing solo. Because there are 2 players, which is the max amount of people during co-op, enemies tend to focus on one player versus another. I could move around wildly without a care because only a couple enemies were shooting at me. If I ever went down, I could get revived by my robot. An interesting feature against reviving being too powerful is that it would take a large portion of health away from my teammate, causing both of us to become a bit more wary about the next encounter. I enjoy the game more with a friend, but it almost felt like an entirely different game compared to playing solo. This is probably just a skill issue, but it is how I felt during my time. Now, one of the best things about Roboquest, besides the gameplay and bosses, is the presentation of it all. From the music to the graphics and even the little flips that appear when I shoot, this game nails exactly the vibe that it is going for. I love the aesthetic. The graphics are interesting to look at with a comic-esque art style, again feeling inspired by Borderlands. And then the music. When I first loaded into this game, it was mesmerizing. Each track is fantastic. They all maintain the feeling the game is going for while continuing to be unique and add to the experience. Each level was elevated because the music added another layer to enjoy throughout my runs. But while the presentation was on point, the overarching narrative and story progression was a bit lacking. There are a few cutscenes between levels that point to the story and what is happening, but they aren't very interesting. They are still shots similar to what you would see in Redfall, but with more frames to catch the eye. It is cool to go through the story once, but then there isn't any additional progression to the story. Even after you complete it, it doesn't feel any different. There are no changes in the home base, no changes to enemies. It is almost as if the game doesn't even recognize that the story was completed. There isn't another reason to engage with the game. I found this pretty disappointing, and as someone who needs several incentives, it made the game become less appealing to continue to repeat over and over. Which brings me to my overall biggest issue with the game. This game is still a roguelike. It is still always about doing run after run after run, repeating the same experience over and over again. Once I reached what I felt was the conclusion of the game, I didn't feel like I had anything else that I wanted to chase. There are more secrets to uncover and a bit more progression to complete, but that wasn't enough of an incentive to make me want to come back once I reached my main goal. This took me about 10 hours to get to this point. I truly enjoyed the gameplay, but the core idea of Roboquest is a roguelike. I acknowledge that this is absolutely a personal gripe with the game and genre as a whole. It does not reflect the quality of this game. Roboquest is a fantastic experience and has charm oozing out of every aspect of itself. The core gameplay loop is fast and frenetic. The game rewards you when you experiment with different class builds. It entices you to come back to engage with systems that are creative and interesting. But once I reached a particular point and I completed the story, I didn't have any other incentive to play Roboquest. The gameplay wasn't enough to pull me back. I didn't have the urge to play this game anymore. This is an experience that is built extremely well, and it is easy to see getting at least 10 hours of fun out of this game. But I don't see much more than that. Roboquest is a game that I can say is a great purchase, but with the caveat that it may not be able to hold onto your attention as much as it or you want it to. Thank you for hanging around till the end of the video. I know it ended on a very subjective opinion, but I would love to hear yours. How do you like Roboquest? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like it and hit the subscribe button. You can expect to see at least 2 videos each month, ranging from game reviews to gaming video essays, and it's all just to spark a conversation about games. Also, I stream on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday starting at 7 PM PST. Feel free to join me over there and also in the Discord. Links are all in the description. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.